Hi everybody. Welcome to the data production spreadsheet demonstration. You've got a large assignment ahead of you this week and next. The assignment is in three parts. We're going to cover the first part in this demonstration. This first part of the assignment, we're going to take a raw tab delimited data set, import it into a spreadsheet application, and then transform the data and reformat it so it's cleaned up and ready to import into the second phase of the assignment, which is the database application. Now we're doing this because spreadsheets are probably the most commonly used data management device around, more so than desktop databases or database servers, etc. When you're talking about individual data manipulation, you're going to encounter spreadsheets of one kind or another more often than any other type of data object. And it really doesn't matter what discipline you're in. If you're in business or government, finance or research, librarianship, spreadsheets are universally used as temporary data holding and manipulation tools. So the more you learn about using advanced features in the spreadsheet applications, the better off you'll be as an information manager. So here are our assignment objectives for this first part of the assignment. We're going to create a new spreadsheet document, import a tab delimited data set, which I'll provide. It's actually a live data set that I've had to use this last year for a project here at UNM. We'll clean up the spreadsheet presentation just a little bit by adding column headers and a sort field. And then once the data has been imported in its raw state, we'll use spreadsheet formulas and functions to process the data and clean it up so it's ready for the database application. So this is what your finished spreadsheet project is going to look like. On the left side with the yellow headers, this is the raw data that's going to be imported from the tab delimited data set. On the right side with the green headers, that's the process data that you're going to transform with formulas and functions. And you'll probably need to use the search and replace tool in the spreadsheet, but I want you to use that at a minimum to perform some basic updates, because I want you to concentrate on using the formulas and functions for your data manipulation and formatting needs. So I'm going to jump out of this presentation real quick and go through the first section of the assignment, which is to import the data into the spreadsheet application. So on our desktop here, we've got our OpenOffice icon. We'll start that up and select the spreadsheet application, which gives us a blank spreadsheet to work with. Now you'll need to download the Western Birds source data file from the WebCT site. And this is actually a bibliographic records list of articles from this one journal, Western Birds, that go back to 1970. So the object is to produce a nice bibliography citation list with your processed data at the very end of the spreadsheet part of the assignment, and then use that for the database coming up next. So to import the raw data set, which you can see is not the most user-friendly set of data that you've ever seen. It's not bad though. It actually looks pretty good by comparison here to some of that I've seen. We'll click Insert Sheet from File, and then the application will ask us where the data file is. It's on our desktop. This gives us an import dialog here. Now, this isn't always a necessary stage when you're importing raw text files, but it doesn't hurt. Often, if you don't tell the import program what format you want the cells to be that you're importing the data into, it will get confused. For example, especially in using Microsoft Excel, this pages column here, these data values early on, 1-2 and 2-3, could be misinterpreted by the application as date fields, meaning January 2nd and February 3rd. So we want to avoid any confusion, so we're going to change the column data type here from standard to text so that the application knows for sure just to bring in the literal values that are in those columns and not to try to interpret them as something else. Okay, that done, click OK. We're going to insert it into sheet 1. And there we go. That was fairly simple and straightforward. Let's turn our first row into column headers. We do that by highlighting row 2, left click on the number 2 there, and then jump up to Window and select Freeze. And that'll freeze the top row, which now becomes our column headers for the assignment. Let's also adjust the column widths here so that we can see everything at once. I'm just going to set it to 2 inches each. And we'll save the spreadsheet application now. So we save our work. Now the next part of the assignment, I'm just going to create a dark gray separator bar between our raw data here on the left, and we'll highlight the row, column header row yellow to distinguish it. The next section of the assignment is to skip over here to column K and recreate this data set using formulas and functions. And let's skip back to the presentation and I'll give you the specific instructions on what you need to do. All right, the first thing I'd like you to do is to insert a sort column with serial numbers running from the first record in the data set down to the last record, which I believe there are 1,365 total records in the data set you imported. And do this using the fill command in OpenOffice Spreadsheet. Then we need a journal title field, and the name of the journal was originally California Birds, and I believe there's one other transitional name before it landed on its final name, which is Western Birds. So all of the journal title entries in this column for your manipulated set of data on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet need to read Western Birds. Also, we need a section, a journal section. For within each issue, there are various sections. So there's reviews and editorials and notes and articles. Any of the raw data entry article records entered into the spreadsheet are going to have a blank data cell in the section column. So in your manipulated transform set of data, you need to include the term articles as the section that all of those blank cells came from. Those articles with blank cells came from. You don't need to do anything with the volume or issue number data. Just bring those over from the left-hand side of the spreadsheet to the right. And do that using a simple formula, which I'll show you here in a second. We don't need the month column, so you can omit that from your transform data, your process data on the right side. We do need year, however, and if you notice that the year is missing from the original data set that you imported. Volume 1 of Western Birds was published in 1970, so you'll need to increment the year with the volume numbers. So volume 1 needs to read 1970 in the year column. Volume 2 needs to read 1971, and so forth. You'll need a pages to bring the pages column over just as it is in the imported data. But then you'll need to create 2 new columns, one called Start Page, which will contain just the starting page number of the article, and End Page, which will contain just the ending number of the article. Title should come over as is. You don't have to process anything there. Author now is where it's going to get a little bit more complicated. Currently, there's an authors field in the raw data set that's on the left-hand side of the spreadsheet. And all the authors' names are in all caps, and the names are in first name space last name format. Plus, there's a number of articles that were co-authored by multiple authors. For our database assignment, we just want to use the first author or primary author of the article. So using, again, formulas and functions, we want you to, on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet, strip out all of the co-authors and then transpose the form of the name of the primary authors from first name, last name to last name, comma, space, first name, just as if you were writing a bibliographic citation. And then to put the author name in proper case format, which means a capital letter for each part of the name and lowercase letters for all of the other parts of the name. Then I want 2 additional columns, one for the author first name, one for the author last name. And then at the very end, a new column called citation, in which you're going to use a formula to create a complete, cleaned, formatted bibliographic citation for that article in the form that's on the instruction here. So next, let's talk a bit about formulas. And that's going to take a few minutes. Formulas can use formatting commands in a spreadsheet, and they can use spreadsheet functions. Functions are pre-written pieces of computer code that perform one type of data operation that you can apply to a set of data in your spreadsheet. Now, there are several classes of spreadsheet function. The more analytical types of functions that provide statistical and financial analysis features we're not going to use in this assignment, at least. But we are going to use two of the major types. We're going to use some functions that help format data, and we'll use some functions that transform data. Now, there's several common types of functions that we use over and over again. Some of those are string extraction functions, and you'll see the left, mid, and right functions pretty frequently in your use of spreadsheets. As the name of the function indicates, the left function will pull a substring of text out of a larger string from the left-hand side of the data. Write function will pull a substring of text out of the right-hand side of the data, and the mid function can be used to pull data out of any point in the larger substring. There are two functions that allow you to locate where data exists, specific data exists in a larger string. Those are find and search. Now, in Microsoft Excel, I think the find and search functions operate a little differently from each other. In OpenOffice Spreadsheet, I have not been able to find how they're any different from each other except in name. So you can use either one of them the same way. We're also going to use an evaluation function called if that lets you set a condition to look for in a string of data and then perform an operation on that data if the condition is true or if the condition is false. You can also connect if statements together. This is called nesting, which we'll talk about, so that you can form in what in programming terms is called an if-then-else evaluation of a condition. So you actually have three choices instead of two. You set a condition. If the condition is true, you do one thing. If it's false, you do something else. And the something else can then lead to another set of conditions that you test for. So this allows you to write, in effect, very primitive programs that will perform multiple data operations on a set of data. There are a number of reformatting functions. The one we're going to use is called proper, which will convert a string of data into proper case format, either for title or for name, but mostly for names. It'll capitalize the first letter of the word and convert the other letters in the word to lowercase. Here are some specific function examples. Starting with the proper function, the way you enter a function into the spreadsheet is to first type an equal sign. That alerts the spreadsheet that in this cell in the spreadsheet you are going to type a formula or a function. Now each function has a named keyword that tells you a little bit about what the function is going to do. And then most functions have a set of parentheses attached to the keyword, and inside the parentheses, and this differs from function to function, you insert a set of parameters that tell the function where to look for the data and what to do with it once it finds it. So proper is one of the most simple functions. What we're doing here in this formula is telling proper to look in cell A1, which we have column A, row 1, cell A1 over here, Gene T. Craig. And then once it locates cell A1 to convert the data in cell A1 into proper name format. So the result after you type proper parentheses A1 end parentheses and hit enter is this is what you'll see displayed in the spreadsheet. The same thing here for John Smith in the second example, converts to proper name format. Same thing here, A3, Jane Doe to Jane Doe. The left, mid, and right functions add one more set of parameters that you need to insert into the function to tell it where to go and what to do. Now, the left function here starts after the keyword with a parentheses, and then the first parameter we're going to insert into the function is the cell number that you want to get the left string from. So in this case, it's A1 again, Finch. We then put a semicolon to divide the two parameters from each other. And then we're going to type the number of characters counted from the left that the function is to extract for us. So we put, in this example, number 3 and applied it to cell A1. And our result, once you type the whole function and hit enter, is it will display FIN, the first 3 characters counting from the left of cell A1. The right function operates in the same way, except that it counts the number of characters you want to get from the right end of the data that you're looking at. So in this case, we're looking in cell A3, and we want to get 4 characters, which are CKER, from the right. And the mid function actually has a third data parameter that you need to enter. Mid here is telling us that we're telling it, that we need to look in cell A2. We want to count 3 characters from the left and then get the next 4 characters only out of that string. So in this case, 1, 2, 3 is the A. The next 4 characters are A, R, R, O, which gives us the result A, R, R, O as our answer to the function example. The find and search functions, they also have 2 data parameters. After you type find parentheses, you'll need to tell find the letter string or number string that you're looking for. If it's a string of letters or literal letter values there, you'll need to encapsulate the letters you're looking for in quote marks. And that tells the spreadsheet to look for text instead of numbers. If you're looking for just numbers in a cell, you can type the numbers directly without the quote marks. We then put a semicolon to divide the data parameters, and we tell the function that we want to look for NC in cell A1. And once we hit return after typing the close parenthesis, the result that we're going to get is 3, and that tells us that NC starts 3 characters in from the left in cell A1. And we can use this to look for the occurrence of specific patterns, specific characters or patterns of information in other strings that will help us to divide the strings into multiple sets of data. You're going to use this find command when you are extracting the start and end page and the author first name and the author surname. One note here in example 2, you'll notice that Sparrow has 2 R's. We're asking the find function to find R in this cell, and you'll notice that it only reports the location of the first R as being 4 characters in from the left in the word sparrow. If there are multiple occurrences of whatever you're looking for in the larger string, the function isn't going to report them. It's going to stop at the first occurrence it finds. So that's a limitation on using the find and search command, is that it's not going to tell you all of the locations of a character set. So if you're looking in a large string of data, you're only going to find the first occurrence. And then for the third example, I just used the search function, which does exactly the same thing as the find function. So let's jump out of the presentation now and actually enter a couple of test functions into a spreadsheet so you can see how they operate. Then we'll come back and I'm going to show you some examples of some advanced functions, and I want you all to work on sort of decoding those and using them in your assignment. All right, so we're back here at our spreadsheet, and I'm just going to scroll down a ways and pick some data to look at here. And let's just use, let's use this record here on row 1060. If we're going to use the left function that we just reviewed, I'd first find a blank cell, because you can't use a function in the cell where there's already data. You have to use a blank cell in order to write a function, and the function will actually copy the data over and then manipulate it and display it for you in the other cell. But the original data always that you're referring to always remains untouched. So let's type equals, and as you remember, that tells the spreadsheet we're about to use a function. Left, we're going to find something on the left-hand side of a data string, an open parentheses, and now you'll see this little tooltip here is telling us that it wants to know where we need to go to get the data for the left function. And we can either type in a cell number directly, like if we're going to look in this cell here that says no author, which is I-1060, cell I-1060. I can type I-1060, or I can simply, you'll notice we got a little arrow here pointing to text. While we're in this part of the function, according to the tooltip, we can click on the cell that we want to look in. You notice it types I-1060. Now we need to go to tell it how many characters from the left to extract. So we'll type a semicolon to divide the two data parameters. And let's say we just want to look for 2 characters on the left in cell I-1060. I type a close parentheses and hit enter. And the first 2 characters on the left of this cell are no. If I was going to use the mid function to pull a character string out of the middle, somewhere in the middle of another data cell, I'd find a new clean empty cell, type equals mid, open parentheses, click on the cell that I want to apply the function to, semicolon. Now how many characters in do I want it to start extracting data? Let's say 4. And then how many characters total do I want it to extract? Let's say something wild like 255. And that would ensure that we get all of the data from character 4 on in the cell. So we don't have to know how many exact characters in each cell we want to extract. I hit enter, and that gives us the term author. Now, instead of having to type the function over and over again on all 1,300 rows, I can simply highlight the function, copy the cell, and highlight the cells beneath it. And if I can see it here, I can paste it. There we go. So now you notice that for all of these cells, the functions that I've copied have counted in 4 characters and then copied the entire contents of the cell over after 4 characters to the right. Now you can always look at what function is in a cell over here by highlighting the cell and then checking the formula bar up here at the top of the underneath the menu. And that will tell you exactly what the function is that's operating to produce this data result. Also, if we click on a clean empty cell and we don't know what function we want to use, you can switch to the function wizard, which actually opens up, if I click on that little FX, it opens up a library of all the functions that are available in the spreadsheet application. So you can see there's quite a number of different functions that you can apply. And if you highlight a function, you'll get a little hopefully concise and complete definition of what the function does and also how to use the function in the spreadsheet. So then that's the basics of how to enter a function, and you'll be able to copy the function into its succeeding columns, and that way create your new data columns here on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet without having to re-enter functions over and over and over again. All right, well, let's switch back now to the presentation, and I'll show you some examples of advanced functions that are nested and have perform multiple operations. Okay, you can refer back to this slide again. Here I've got two examples of advanced functions that you can use as part of your assignment. The first function actually starts here at the equal sign and wraps around onto the second line, and it needs to include all of the parentheses at the end because it is a nested function that contains 1, 2, 3 if statements. So the way this function is evaluating data in the cell G1 that it points to is that it wants to find first whether there's a dash in G1, and if that dash is located at position number 4, counting to the left, then we want to get the left 3 characters out of that cell. If, however, and this is the second if, the dash is located at position 3 in the cell, we only want to get the next 2 characters from the left of the cell. And of course, the third if is if we find that the dash is at position 2, then we only want to get the first character from the left of the cell. So this function performs multiple evaluations in order to find out if the pages column, if you remember the pages that has pages 4-32, has both the start and end of the page numbers for the article. It's taking into account that the starting page number in the pages cell may be 1, 2, or 3 digits long. So you don't have to manually write separate functions in order to extract all of the starting page numbers from all 1,365 articles. One thing to note is that if there is no dash present in the field that you're referring to in the pages column, then this function will return an error. It won't return many because there aren't many that are articles that are simply single page in length. So you can actually sort the data and clean up all of the errors by sorting them together and cleaning those up all at once. This second function here, or second formula, which contains an if, a mid, and a search function, checks the author field in K1 to see if the author name is actually no author. And if it is, it just copies no author over into the new cell. But if the value in the field is not new author, then it looks in the cell for the first space it finds and gets the counts from the one more than the first space it finds over to the right up to 255 characters. And so the mid function here is going to extract either the last name or the middle initial in the last name. And this will give you a clue on how to write a nested function so that you can extract pieces of the author names out of the author's field. To use this part of the function here, you need to remove all the added authors first. So you need to perform that operation first before you use this function. If the author's name, as I just mentioned, has got a middle initial, the function will pull the middle initial and the last name. If only the author first and last name is displayed in the field, it will pull just the author last name. And if the field contains the word no author, it will simply display no author. Now you can actually trick out this function and complete it so that you, for example, could exclude the middle initial and just pull only the last name of the author. And then you can modify this a little bit to pull the first name of the author out of the string. And so that way you don't need to go manually typing author first and last names from the data by reviewing the data in the spreadsheet. Now the one last thing we'll talk about is formatting data using the formula capability. For the last column in the assignment, the citation column, I want you to concatenate data and add punctuation and spaces in order to format it into a bibliographic citation. So this formula right here shows you how to do that. What we're going to do with this formula is take the word finch, sparrow, and woodpecker and concatenate them together in sentence format with proper punctuation. So you see we've got A1, which is finch, and then we use an ampersand to connect A1 to either a data string or another cell data. In the data string here, we've got two quotes, a comma, and a space. The quotes say to print the comma and the space literally. Then we'll use another ampersand and connect finch and sparrow together with the comma and space in between. And this is the result that you'll see from that formula. Finch, comma, space, sparrow. We'll do the same thing between sparrow and woodpecker, except that we'll add the comma, space, the word or, space, end quote, and then woodpecker. So that gives us finch, sparrow, or woodpecker formatted like this. And using this concatenation method with punctuation and spacing, you can create your own bibliographic citation in the citations column. Now, I'd like you to remember to you need to leave all your formulas in the right-hand side of the spreadsheet with the green columns, like we looked at earlier. Here we go. Leave the formulas embedded in here. Don't erase them so that I can look at them when I'm grading your assignments. But remember, all of this imported data stays the same. Use the formulas and the functions that we reviewed to produce the clean data on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet. When you've done processing the spreadsheet, go ahead and turn it in as assignment, the spreadsheet assignment that's listed in WebCT. Will give you a place to upload your spreadsheet file, and then take a copy of your spreadsheet and move on to the second part of the assignment. And as always, email me or give me a call if you've got any questions or need help. And have fun. You should have fun with this, building formulas and functions to create formatted data. We'll see you next time.